The rules for meeting at the K have always been simple. They were made up by Timothy Hyman, whose beloved wife is here right now, and I'd like you to recognize Kathy Hyman. And the rules that Tim instituted at the K were, you did not have to talk if you didn't want to, but if you did speak, you had to tell the truth. That's the way it was. And it was always that way, and it will always be that way. Now, back in the day that we're going to talk about today, we didn't meet at the K. Weren't smart enough to realize that we always ought to come there and make sure we loved each other before we got out of the gym. But we did figure that out before it was over, and those were Tim's rules. And so what I'm going to do today is speak because I want to, very much want to, and I'm certainly going to tell the truth. And the truth is, when we played the final game of the 67-68 season, it was gigantic in the sense that when Knox College and Monmouth College got together in those days, it was the ultimate. You know, you talk about whatever major rivalry you've been familiar with, been part of. Nothing was ever really much more intense in those days than Knox and Monmouth. It was head on, it was full bore, and it was anything you could think of to win legally. So that's the start. And it's important to me that you understand the start, because without the start, it would be impossible for you to believe what I'm going to tell you right now. What happened at the end is the best single shot I've ever seen in high school playing, college playing, Big Ten coaching, 40 years at Knox, all the television games since I retired 20 years ago. Never saw a better shot, ever, because of what went before the shot. Because before the shot is this incredible rivalry between two schools that by nature simply did not want the other to have any glory or success. And in this particular situation, that would have been enough, but add to it the fact that if Monmouth won, they were going to be tying for the conference championship. If we won, we were going to get out of the middle of the pack and get up in the top part of the league. So it had meaning in that sense, but the rivalry was the key. Okay, in those days we didn't fill it every game at all, but we filled it for Monmouth, and it was full. Now the bleachers were a little different, and I'll tell you later, the clock was a lot different, but it was full. The newspaper account the next day, written by an old friend, Max Usler, says 3,000 people. I think he's probably right. Big crowd, big game. 2 weeks before that, Monmouth had defeated us by 6 at Monmouth. So a 6-point game there tells you we're going to have a pretty good game here. So there was a lot of anticipation, a lot of expectation that it was going to really be something. And the other thing is, both teams really had some fine players. They really had some fine players. We had a player on that team who was the first player in the history of Knox College to score over 1,000 points. Now that's not bad. Be the first guy to do that. And I remember the night he did it and how he did it. He took a nice backdoor pass from Tom Pershear, reversed it in, and Paul Madsen made it to 1,000. This is Paul Madsen. The night of this game, he got 21 in a 60-point game. That was pretty good. But the funny thing about Paul was 21 was unusual for him, just like 10 was unusual for him. For starting 66 straight games, he averaged 15 points a game for 3 straight years. It was a fabulous display of consistency. And Paul was a great captain. Okay. Game goes on. Hi, kid. The game goes on, and boy, it's a beauty. I mean, it's a beauty. Back and forth, tit for tat. They've got a center named Noonan, John Noonan, who got about 25 against us at Monmouth, who we decided just simply could not have that kind of success this night. He ended up with 6, about a 6'7" guy. But they had a kid named Donnie Campbell we weren't so good with, who had 21 that night. He was a very, very good player. Back and forth, back and forth. We're at that end, shooting foul shots, hit one, and my beloved captain took time out to bring us over to the bench to talk about I don't know what, because I didn't have anything I wanted to say. Back out on the floor, when it dawned on me that was our 5th time out, and we all recognized that we had none left. Okay? Now we hit the next free throw, and it's tied up. It's 60-60. Their ball, last shot. They take their time out, they get organized, they're going this way. They play a one-guard offense, 1-2-2 against a man-to-man, but because they had to kill time in order to get down to take their shot at the 7, 8, 9 second mark, they bring another guy out to be with Campbell, so in case he needs to release the ball to get a little time or something, he's got somebody to work with. A kid named Keith Coppin. I love Keith Coppin. I've never seen him again, but I love the guy. And I'll tell you why. Because when Keith Coppin threw it back to Campbell for the last time to run down to his spot at the bottom of the lane, a good old pal of mine who just took the game fairly seriously stepped out there and said, "Coppin, you're not going anywhere." And let me tell you, that kid was so mad when he saw Billy step in front of him that he not only knocked him down, hell, he shoved him. He was so mad, yeah! So that referee could not swallow his whistle. There was no choice. Bam! Offensive foul. Our ball, 18 seconds on the clock. Tommy Brashear, who was Billy's running mate all the way through, and a great defender. Wow. Tommy set the steal record and the fewest fouls by a starter record in the same year. Think about that. Tommy took it out of bounds, threw it into Billy, right there. Me and some other real good guys were sitting right over there. And I knew in my heart Bill would no more give that ball up than fly, boy. I knew that because he knew what I knew. There was nobody like him when the money was on the line. So down we go. At about 3 or 4 seconds, Billy was right where that guy right there is. And he looked over his shoulder at our only clock. No clock up there, only clock is right up there. He looks over his shoulder, and when he did, I did. And when I looked, 3 seconds. Okay? And by the time I looked back, he was in the air, and by the time he banked it in because he couldn't swish anything, it was in, and the game was over. And I want to tell you something. 3,000 people came right out of those bleachers, brother, and had a running race to see if they could beat me out here so I could just touch him. I just wanted to touch him, but I couldn't because those guys had him so far up in the air on their shoulders that it was unbelievable. I mean, it was unbelievable, the joy and exhilaration in this room. And that's when I looked right down there and saw a guy named Jim Ryan going, "No basket." Now, I don't know how fast I got down there, but it was fast. I said, "Jim, I know that shot was taken before the horn sounded." He said, "You're absolutely right." But he was fouled before the shot went up, and nobody heard the whistle. You see, there was such pandemonium in here, not even Woody heard the whistle. Our score guy. He said, "That basket is not good. He's got one shot coming, and we've got game to play." Now, understand this. By now, Billy and his beloved teammates are down in what we used to call the classroom, which is now part of Scott's training room. And Bill has actually got his shoes off, sitting down there waiting for me to come and give him the damn ball is what he was waiting for. I know that. And that's exactly what I was going to do. Only one trouble. I've got to stumble in there and somehow explain to them the game's not over. And brother, you talk about a tough sell. Fellas, the game's not over. Well, I won't say make a long story short because it's not a short story. To tell you what really happened is, Billy got his shoes back on, and everyone else did, and we made our way up here. And we were huddled right over there where every Knox team is huddled since this building was built in 1951. And we were grouped together, and the referee walked over to Woody and said, "Put 2 seconds on the clock." That doesn't sound too hard, does it? You know, digital clock, bing, bing, 2 seconds. Not a digital clock. No, a clock that you set on 1 minute and then it goes 59, tick, tick. We're standing there in a gym where there's absolutely no sound. Everyone is so awestruck at what's going on. There's no sound, and we're listening. Tick, tick, tick. Tommy finally said, "For Christ's sake, Coach, say something!" So I thought, don't be short. That's all I could think of. I said, "Billy, don't be short."
Don't be short.
They finally get it down to 2 seconds. We're all back out there. Everyone's lined up. And you know what? There was a certain second when I knew we were okay. And that's when he got up there, went down and got that left sock, went down and got that right sock, shook those shoulders, and did it the same way he's done it since he was a punk kid in Kewanee. And never even came close to anything except the bottom of the net. And that's Bill Fuerst. I love you, pal.
I love you too, man. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's the story. And I'd like to take the chance to thank Daniela for giving me the chance to tell it, and Billy and Paul the chance to hear it, and all the rest of you. And I want to say to those of you who are wearing the Knox uniform today, I salute you and pray that you will take from this total experience what Billy and Paul and lots of other guys did to have it mean something in your life. Thanks, Daniela.
You're welcome.